Welcome back to Ty and That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham, and this is my good buddy Ty Franck. Sometimes hugger, sometimes lover, sometimes snuggler. What you doing, Ty?
I'm drinking a beer because it's Sunday.
Special podcast today. You two donkey dicks couldn't get laid in the morgue.
That's what it is. See, that's what it is. Yeah.
So you could tell from that quote, we're going to be doing weird science today. And I happen to be working with Isaiah Mustafa, and we were in a car ride together, and his lovely wife's name is Lisa, and she was in the back seat, and he goes, and she was giving him instructions on how to drive in the back seat, and he goes, he says, "You ever seen Weird Science?" And I'm like, "Motherfucker, we're doing that podcast this week." And then he started quoting, and we've been quoting on this podcast. We've been talking about Weird Science since we started this thing. And
hold up. I got to correct you on one thing. Like,
I'm getting to the point.
Missed the point. Okay, got you. Okay.
I'm getting to the point. Okay. So I thought I knew a lot about Weird Science, right? But for years, even on this podcast, I've been misquoting. One of my favorite lines in my favorite characters of all times is, "You two douchebags couldn't get laid in the morgue." And Isaiah was the first one to point out, "It's you two donkey dicks that couldn't get laid in the morgue." So at that point, I had the utmost respect for him. But the two conversations we had on that ride, I didn't think he could possibly rise any further in my esteem. But when he told me about donkey dicks, then I knew he was a man of culture, and he enjoys the finer things of life.
Yes. Hold on. There, you forgot this very, very pivotal moment that we had. My wife's nickname, from what I call her, is she don't even have her license, Lisa, because Lisa's her name. So I give her the whole sentence is her nickname. She don't even have her license, and I changed him to her. So that's she has to hear that every single day, and she is worn out by it.
I bet when you found out her name was Lisa, that was a big bonus in the in the wooing of Isaiah, huh?
I think that might have been one of the first things I said to her. I was like, "Has anybody ever told you you don't even have his license, Lisa?" And she was like, "No."
How did you first hear about this? We always go through and we talk about the first time we heard about it and our first experience of seeing the movie.
And I must have been 12 years old. And I didn't even hear about it when it first came out. Like, I had no, because I didn't believe it came out in 85.
Yeah, 85.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So maybe I did. No, I didn't know. I didn't see it in the theater. I can tell you that much. Well, I saw it on HBO. Back then HBO would play movies like over and over and over. I mean, they would just like kill movies. You know what I mean? So you would catch a movie like halfway through, a quarter of the way through, and then you just ride it out or whatever, right? And Weird Science, Bachelor Party, a couple other ones were one of those where they just had it on repeat. And every time Weird Science was on, I would sit down and watch it. But there's one time, the first time I ever saw it, my sister's husband, he was this brother from Milwaukee, and he was in Vietnam, and he was pretty serious, and he's watching it, and he was fucking dying, like crying, laughing, and I was like, "What is he laughing?" Because he's always so serious, and he had his own sense of humor, but I never thought it would be something like that. So I went over, I was like, "What?" And he was just like dying on it, and then. Every time he was over the house and that was on, he'd be like, "Come here," and he'd show me parts. He'd be like, watch this part. Here it comes. And that's when I fell in love. I was like, all right, this movie is hilarious.
What about you, Ty? How'd you hear about this movie?
The first time I knew this movie existed, I think I was like maybe 17, and a friend of mine in front of my parents said, "Doesn't it bother you that the only release he has is wanking off to dirty magazines in the bathroom?"
I was combing my hair.
But I didn't know what it was from. And I was like, "Dude, what the fuck?" And first of all, there's no way for him to know that. And second of all, I was like, what the fuck? You doing this in front of my parents? Then he was like, "No, you got to see this movie." So I watched the movie. Then I got the joke, but I was still pissed he said that in front of my parents.
Oh my
Side
God.
note, Isaiah, Ty was raised in a cult, and they like a real life cult, and they didn't put up with any
amazing.
dirty talk like that. So
Yeah,
all
there's no
his
dirty talk.
He's like,
all his movies, like all his education and movies and life and all those things, he all had to like sneak around, do all that shit. They didn't do all that.
that's the best way to watch Weird Science, is sneaking around and finding it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I remember I was living in Savannah, Georgia, and I went next door to my best friend, Jason and Justin's house. And Jason was sick that day, and his mom wouldn't let him come out and play. So he was inside, and he wouldn't let me come in to play. And so Jason and Justin were, I remember knocking on his window. Like, I used to go to his window, knock on his window, and he'd run back, and they were still in their jammies. And I knock on the window, and I'm like, what the fuck? You're not better yet? Like, let's go play. And they go, no, we're watching this movie. And we're watching this, and I was like, "What's the movie?" We loved movies, and in his house was the house that had the VCR. He was like the friend that like introduced you to everything, right? So I was like, "What's the movie? What the fuck is the movie?" And he's like, "It's about these two guys who make a girl in their computer." And I'm like, "I will tear down that fucking door. I need to come in and see that movie." And his mom would not let me come in to see that movie. So for years. And this is one thing. This is one thing that we talk about on the podcast. How life was like before YouTube or streaming, where you could just immediately get every movie. So for years, I remember being on the bus and somebody would be like, talking about Weird Science, and I'm like, "You saw Weird Science? Tell me about it. Tell me." And that's how I got like a lot of movies. I would hear stories of my friends telling the movie, to the point when I finally get to watch the movie, then I feel like I've already seen it. I feel like I know it.
And you also find out all the shit your friends lied about.
Right.
That they said was in the movie, but isn't actually in there.
Exactly.
That's the best part, because you come back and you're like, you become an authority on it, because you're like, no, he didn't say that.
Exactly. And we had a dark period, like I think it was like a year, almost 2 years, where I don't know if my stepdad was behind on bills or whatever, but we didn't get HBO for like 2 years. And so when HBO finally came on, we called the HBO rotation, and Weird Science in that rotation, I was, like you, watching it over and over again. So then I ended up seeing it. But anyway, watching it just now, I want to stand up for Weird Science a little bit, because
like you're defending it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to defend it a little bit, because a lot of the things that I heard about it, a lot of the things that I've been reading about or hear about it, is that two guys making a doll, like a sex doll or whatever, like it's a sexist movie. And watching it now, I felt as if they made this genie-like character who used her sexuality to lift them up. She was in control. They weren't in control of her. They were actually prudes. Like, they didn't even take their clothes off in the shower. So she taught them, she looked out for them, she cared for them, and she gave them self-esteem. She built them up. She had a mind of her own, and she was the one, the strong one in the movie. So I know there's a lot of other sexist things in it, but the main story, I don't think.
I was just talking about this with somebody, that they create a sex doll that they never have sex with, and she's the one in every scene that has all the power. And what she mostly does through the entire movie is call people on their bullshit. That's what she spends the entire movie doing, because they have nothing to threaten her with. She has all the power all the time. And so, like, from that perspective, it's weirdly not sexist. I will say that this is the most 80s movie ever. So,
yes,
like, if you took a members only jacket and it had sex with like a Hunter TV show from the 80s,
David Lee Roth,
and David Lee Roth, this movie is the baby they would have. It is the most 80s thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's amazing though. Like so if you try to make that now, or someone says like, all right, well, let's do it, let's remake it. You couldn't give a 15-year-old now the ability to make, like, they would go crazy. They would make that sex doll. The amount of, like, their access to things now is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like back then, you were trying to sneak things. You may have seen like porn or something, but it was like that one time when the TV, the horizontal hold corrected itself for a second, and you're like, oh, you caught a blip of it, nowadays it's just like all over the place.
We talk about scrambled porn so much in this movie, we talk about, I mean, in this podcast, we talk about like those days where you like would be watching the porn channel and to be scrambled, and every now and then there'd be a freeze, and that would last you all week.
Yeah. That's the best, man. Like this movie, it's timeless, man. Like, cause I watched it recently too. So, and like you, I laugh even harder now because I have, you know, I'm an adult now, so I can actually see like how ridiculous everything is. But I also have like characters who I am more like endeared to now than I was when I was watching him. I used to hate Chet, but I used to laugh at him. But now he might be my favorite character. Like
Chet is everyone's favorite character.
Who, Chet?
Yeah, he's everyone's favorite character. Chet is the best. He's the best thing in the movie.
Definitely, he definitely kills it. Like him and Robert Downey Jr. Like him and Bill Paxton, the two of them destroy their role. Like Robert Downey Jr. does some like tiny little things in this movie that'll make you cry laughing. Like,
you know, and I think Kelly LeBrock is very good in this movie. I didn't notice it as I was probably paying attention to other things but watching her now, I mean, she's very good in this movie.
Confident,
you know,
confident.
She like,
second time out too. That was her second movie.
Yeah, the confidence. She carries this movie. She's the center, you know, with these kids. But you know what I noticed too, and I think one of the reasons that the movie hit harder and made me laugh harder was now that I'm older, now that I have kids, and now like I feel things deeply, you know, and so my heart went out for Wyatt and what is their names? Gary
and Wyatt,
and Gary and Wyatt. Like my heart went out for them, and I forgot like the setup. Hughes is such a smart writer. Like in the setup, just the opening, you understand who these young boys are. You understand what they want desperate in life, and they're looking, and you realize like even the way they shoot the gymnastics and the female gymnastics, like those are like animals, like wild animals that they in Africa that they're obsessed with, that they have no knowledge of. Like they have no, like they're watching them and they're like, we don't know how to talk to them.
If they know if they walk over there and confront them, they will be ripped to shreds.
Right.
Exactly.
Just like if you were watching some lions do stuff, like those are really pretty. I would love to scratch their heads, but if I go over there, they will murder me. That's how these boys are looking at the girls. Like they're beautiful. I would love to scratch their head, but they will absolutely murder me if I go over there.
Get mauled. Yep. And the worst part about it is Robert Downey Jr. and his boy. I mean, what is his name? I think it's like his name was Robert Russler in the movie. Yeah. Max. Like they know that they're literally throwing meat to the wolves. Yep. It's like, yo, check us out.
And then also think about he says, yo, check us out. Yeah. And I will say to really start off the movie with one of your worst nightmares at that age and that insecurity level, where you're telling your deepest, darkest secrets to your friend and they're overhearing this.
Right.
So they know this shit. Then they grab your pants and pull them down, and then the whole beautiful gymnastics team turns around and looks at him like, what a great way to start it.
You get the dynamic too, though. You get the dynamic between Gary and Wyatt because Wyatt like starts to like say something. He's like, "We're just," and Gary's just like, "Shut up, let's go."
Also, too, where Gary is the alpha in the nerd group in the duo.
Oh, totally.
So he's having the fantasy, and he's like, "Well, that's not really true." And he's like, "Shut up! Don't ruin my fantasy." You know,
right.
In the thing. So everything is communicated in that one scene, and when I'm left like my heart's going out for these kids, and I'm laughing my ass off.
Well, it's because deep down inside, you know, you're the Wyatt to my Gary.
Oh no! Totally.
What were you saying, Isaiah?
Hold on. Sorry. I see the dynamic. I see the dynamic here.
Yeah.
I want to put a spotlight on Robert Downey Jr. real quick because to me there's some shit he does that like I always saw it and I just thought it was some of the funniest shit. I like the funniest shit. Like when they first get to the party and Max is like, "Where's the bar?" And Robert, he's like, "Bar." then when he goes, like when they're trying to negotiate for Lisa, and he's like, and Max just he loses patience, and he's like, you guys, like, why are you guys being pricks? And then Robert Downey Jr. does this thing. He goes, hey. like, don't fuck it up.
Yeah,
like, we're close. Don't fuck this up. Just the way he goes, hey, come on now.
Yeah.
I die every time.
but the writing is really nice in that scene because those two guys are willing to sell out their girlfriends. They want to make a trade, and Gary and Wyatt are like, this is not right. So we can't do this.
In the name of common decency is what Gary says. Yes. Like, we can't let you do that. Like,
right. Yeah. In the name of common, even though they are so desperate to be accepted and so desperate to be liked, and it makes you realize, and then they go and they try to make the doll for them. And I don't think it mattered if they hooked the doll up or not. I think that Kelly LeBrock showed up because these are decent, good people.
What does it say? Wait, I got a question for Ty. I'm curious. As a writer, what do you think of the fact that when they got full of themselves and they decided to show off, the thing that they created was a weapon of mass destruction?
It was a weapon of mass destruction, but it was also a giant dick. Yeah. It's like rather than the girl that they wanted, they got a huge dick that might explode and kill them. Right. Yeah.
That erected right through their room,
right through the house. Yeah. I will say though, to your point, Wes, this is a really good point because I was going to mention this earlier. We were talking about the fact that the boys never actually have sex with the sex doll. The other thing that happens is this is an 80s movie, a sex-obsessed teen 80s movie. In all the ways that 80s teen movies were so obsessed with sex. And no one is sexually assaulted in this movie. Which is so unusual. Like even classic movies like 16 Candles has a fucking rape in it, right? Somehow Weird Science, which is a movie all about how desperate boys are for sex, no one is sexually assaulted in the entire movie. That's kind of amazing.
The only one that's assaulted is when they build the missile. Like, you see once they're waiting for like the girl to come out, whatever, they show Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Russler. They're crying underneath the table. They're like it was so dramatic that they're like whimpering like they'd just been assaulted.
Well, it's a good point you bring up about Robert Downey Jr. because if you think about the other Robert in the scene with him, Robert fills up the screen. It's such a small part. There's not a lot for him to work with, but every time he does, your eyes goes to him and he fills up the screen. That could have been like a William Zapta type part where you just where it just fades in the background and it's just stereotypical one note and doesn't have the variations within it.
He's got a thing he does, Russler. He definitely has a character because like his character does this thing where he makes cartoon sounding expressions all the time. Like his expressions are all kind of have these like Looney Tunes.
How you doing?
Yeah, hi ding. Yeah, he's got this like, and he goes, he's doing all these like these sound effects thing, and he carries it through the movie. It's great.
Yeah. I like how when they all get all macho and ask for a bottle of scotch, and the guy's like, bend over and I'll shove it up his
Shove it up your ass.
On the rocks is fine.
On the rocks is fine. I think what's great about this movie is it is straight out of a young man's psychology. It is straight out of their consciousness. It is a dream. It is a fantasy. It is a young man's fantasy. And if you look inside a young boy's head, what happens in this movie is what you're going to see. So I've heard a lot of times watching this movie, I've heard people say it's creepy because he's a 15-year-old and Kelly LeBrock's like 23.
Yeah, I thought about
that.
And
I'm like, I don't get creepy. There's nothing creepy. If I was 15, I would think that was an angel, like coming to have mercy on me.
Wouldn't know what you were doing, but yeah, sure. Like
I would, and they didn't know what, and they didn't know what they were doing, and that's kind of the humor of it. But I don't see the creepiness of it. Now, I mean, I guess, I mean, if I don't know. It's like if you're 15, like that's what I used to dream about too.
Okay, in real life, 23-year-old women should not be showering with 15-year-old boys. But in the
this is not. This is a fantasy.
That's why I said in the fantasy of this movie, where she is, like you said, she's a genie. She's like this magic thing that they created.
Yeah,
it takes that creepiness out of it, I think.
100%.
Look, don't get me wrong. I don't think 23-year-old women should be having sex with 15-year-olds. What I'm saying is the movie is a fantasy.
Yeah,
they're breaking the laws of reality within this.
It's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon. Yeah. And so in those moments, it's what we dreamed about when we were in middle school, you know,
right.
and the lifeguard, you know, it's like you had these fantasies and they're making a movie that's straight out of your head.
I'm gonna say this one last. I'd be remiss if I didn't finish off the RDJ thing about. I love how when Wyatt's like, I mean, the shit's flying at him and everything, and Wyatt looks at Max and he's like, "Everything's you're gonna be fine." And he looks over at Ian and he's like, "How are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm shitting in my pants."
Yeah, that's
that
so
to
funny.
me is like the best answer ever.
The first sequence when you get to see Kelly LeBrock, dude, like that crush does not go away. When you first see Weird Science and you watch it again, she's so cool in that movie. There's just something.
Every movie she was in after that, the Woman in Red, all that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Chet as the protagonist. And his journey through the movie.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, he's trying to be a responsible brother. He's trying to watch over his little brother and his dipshit friend. And you know, sometimes Wyatt makes mistakes, and so he wants to show him that in real life there's penalties for those mistakes. So you're gonna have to pay up, and it's all just to educate him. His
disdain when he realizes, he's like, "That's not a joke." He's in the middle of a bite, like he's chewing something, he can't even get it out. Because if you got to go back and watch that, like the way he does that, and then they cut it. Like I'd love to know what happened. Just if you just let me see a little bit more, like did he start laughing? Did somebody else start laughing? Because he says it was such disdain that it is hilarious. Like he's just like, that's not a joke.
That's what do you say? That's a mental disorder.
A severe behavioral disorder.
And then, again, like you talk about specific to Chet, like what would horrify him the most? What would like that uber machismo military school duck hunting guy? Like what would you? And you know, like even how that's set up when the whole beginning of the sequence when he comes in and he takes his egg. Now make yourself some. Brown something. And he gets the coffee. You spitting this?
Well, I think she is. She's his worst nightmare. Like Lisa is his worst nightmare.
Exactly. That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
Like he and you can see everything crumbling. And I don't know if they're laughing because you know like that's the best take they got and everybody was laughing in the line. But when the girls at the end when they're about to take the girls home and he's preaching. Like they're laughing, but, you know, but they're laughing at him. Like they're almost like, okay, you're nothing at this point. And he's like, go on, take your little hussies home.
Their parents are worried sick.
He's got concern.
Well, I didn't think it was a Wells dick, honey.
I would give a squirt of piss for your ass right now. Hi, Nanny. Hi, Grampy.
I do. He does have that thing like where he burps like it's like he goes like he has like that kind of like disgusted burp look on his face when he does the thing.
This is the best. My wife watched it also and she like was blown away that was Bill Paxton. She was like, is that Bill Paxton? She's like lost her mind. Like she couldn't believe it.
Very young Bill Paxton, very young Robert Downey Jr. All these like amazing actors who are going to go on to have these huge careers are just babies in this movie. I mean, even Anthony McCall, this was his second movie, I think. He's a baby. He looks like he's 12.
does. It's crazy how young he is, and he's like carrying it too. He's carrying the movie, you know?
Yeah. When I first saw this, nobody makes me laugh harder than Chet in Weird Science. He fucking kills me. You talk about choices that he makes that are so specific to his character that are fucking hilarious. Even when he's pointing the double barrel shotgun at Gary and his girlfriend,
him on the head with it.
He's clocking him, and then he's fooling him. Like they don't know which one they're gonna do. He's like, "It's snowing in my room." And I love too, like, you know, it's interesting. It's like there are no rules, but then there's rules. So there's this fantasy world that they're in where she's kind of like all powerful, all encompassing, and you just kind of accept it. Like she can make a car appear out of thin air. She can make it snow in Chet's room. She can make nuclear. Yeah. It's all.
Dude,
it's all this.
Chet into a pile of poop.
That's the best.
Turns Chet into a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And all of those things happen, but you just accept it. And there's even like, so even when they're in the bathroom, right? And by the way, that whole thing of like, why is taking a shit? Sounds really good. If you're gonna flood an air biscuit, let me know. But even so, when they're in the bathroom, and the two girls that they you know, he answers the door and shuts it, and they ended up coming in and they talk, and it's so awkward. It's so
like, awkward. It's the most awkward scene in the entire movie.
It's so awkward, and you know, when he's jingling his change in his pocket, and they're just standing there and they're talking in the bathroom, and the girls want him to leave. When they leave and they go in the shower to do the dragnet exposition dump, where he's like, and it kind of goes. It's so smart because it's now interesting what they're doing, and you're getting information. You're laughing at it the whole time, but you know, it's kind of surreal. It's like, what are they doing? And then when they pop back over, there's two like lookalikes of those girls.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. You know, and it's like, where the fuck did these girls come from? Why are they there? But it all works. It all works. You know,
and you just said something that like go back a second when you're talking about like just accepting things for working. Let's talk like what computer in 1985 was making simulations? You know, like
it's magic.
Yeah.
No. This falls into okay. So there is a genre of fiction that this falls into. There was a number of movies in this genre. Around the same time that computers existed. People knew they existed, but people had never actually used one, right? So you would read about computers, you would see computers on movies in TV, and they seemed to do stuff, but you didn't really know what because nobody actually owned one. And in that period, computers were magic. They could do anything. Like you watch like War Games or Weird Science. Or even remember that weird horror movie that has Ron Howard's brother in it, Evil Speak?
Lawnmower Man?
No, Evil Speak. It was from the early 80s. Yeah. No, it was a horror movie set in a military academy that has Ron Howard's brother. What's his name? Clint Howard. Clint Howard is the main character in it, and in that, computers can like cast spells and like summon demons, and so this Weird Science is in that space where computers are literally magic and they can do anything. Though.
That's the best part about it because you're just like, can I get a computer like that?
Right.
Like you think it's actually possible to hack into the government's like mainframe
super
and like
easy.
like I like this isn't enough for me. I want to do. Would you get a toaster with this thing? He's talking shit about the computer because it can't make a 3D animation.
And they're drawing nuclear power through his telephone.
Right.
He just puts his telephone on the receiver, and they start sucking power out of the nuclear grid.
Because that's the way it works.
Oh yeah, no. Of course, that's how it works. Like when those computers are so strong that if you try to break them with a baseball bat, the baseball bat shatters like it's glass.
Well, and even when you unplug the computer can't be stopped.
Like it just goes.
It just goes. It can't be stopped. Like the power
doing itself now.
Is self-generating. Yeah.
That's the best part, man.
I kind of felt as if, I mean, this is the experience I got, that it was almost like them rubbing a genie lamp. And it was almost like the universe or whatever, like the genie in the universe was coming specifically because they deserved that genie. And if it was the other two clowns and they did all the right things, the genie would not come for them. And but it's like, Ty, we talk about this all the time, like mean comedy and then kind comedy, right? So this movie, at the heart of its comedy, is kindness. They say things that are very dated in 80s and things that are really considered harsh and mean now, but during at the time. So even when they're at that blues bar, you see this and you're like, oh, here's some douchebag kids from Chicago, like rich kids from Chicago. They're going to get tore up in here, And those guys like indulge them, they give them some booze and they hang out with them and they laugh and they're kind
of your friend and mine was in that scene, which I didn't notice until this most recent time I watched it.
Yes,
yeah, our buddy. Yeah, so
she's in the Malacas, Dinos.
Yeah, she's in the Malacas, Dino.
You know what's funny?
So the Malacca guy was in my show. Did a multiple episode arc in my show. And all I wanted to talk to
our show. I like to say it was our
mine.
Show, but go ahead.
Yeah, I allowed you to be in it. Yeah, who cast who? Anyway.
Yeah.
When he was on the show, and he was super nice, and we hung out and chatted and stuff. All I wanted to talk to him about was the Breakfast Club, because he plays the janitor in the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh shit!
I had forgotten that he was in Weird Science. Because I would have wanted to talk to him about Weird Science if I'd remembered. Because, yeah, she's into Malacas, Dino.
It wasn't until this rewatch that I realized, oh my God, he's in that. He's been as in many John Hughes movies as Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah,
shit.
He was definitely somebody John Hughes really liked.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and but that whole cast of characters kills me.
That's his line, by the way.
I got to say one thing though. I don't know what it was, but there was this period of time in the 80s when Anthony Michael Hall thought he did a great black blues musician accent.
No, he thought it was Richard. He thought he was mimicking Richard Pryor.
But it was so bad that it was good.
And he does it in Breakfast Club.
It was so like you couldn't do that now. Like now you look at it, you're like ooh.
But at the for time, some reason he thought he could get away with it in the 80s, man.
Like I said, my sister's husband laughed his ass off at that point because I think he saw it for what it was.
Yeah.
Like, look at this young white kid trying to be hip,
trying to fit in.
And I can clearly see right through it. You know what I mean? Like, which is why at the end they're like betting on him. They're like, well, we'll see if he makes it to the door. Like, I got 500, he don't make it to the door.
Yeah, that's why I said there was kindness at it, because here's this kid who has no context for the blues or for how people are talking. He even makes a thing. He's like, hey, I can really relate to this music, and he says my parents can be really hard on me.
But I mean,
and then you sit there looking at him like, the fuck are you talking about?
But it fits the character so well. You can't, you really can't say whether or not he meant to make it that way or not, or make it like, it fits the character so well. You have to give him props for his choice. Like, you're like, okay, it worked. You know what I mean? Like, it worked.
If you were a clueless white kid in the 80s, you probably thought that's what you should be doing. Like, I should talk. I'm a clueless white kid in this blues bar in downtown Chicago. I should probably try to talk like the guys in the bar talk. You don't understand that that's not the right way to go because you're a clueless white kid in the 80s, right?
But the theme of the movie is they're so uncomfortable with who they are. They don't have any confidence in who they are. They're always trying to do things or be other people to get approval, and
above
it never
and beyond
works.
though. Like every story they tell is above and beyond. Like, we throw these parties every week.
Yeah, exactly. They're lying the whole movie. Kelly LeBlanc, that's the only time she scolds him in the movie is when they're trying to make a girl because they want to get approval from these guys. Yeah. And she's saying, you don't have to, you should be liked for who you are. You don't have to do things to be liked. So the whole movie, they're telling these girls we throw parties all the time. We're doing this. And only until he tells the truth to the girl and said, this isn't really me. This isn't my clothes. This isn't my car. All this isn't me, is when she says, I like you for who you are. And so that's the first time they get a kiss. So what they've been craving the whole movie, starting at that gymnastics scenes when they're watching these girls and they have no idea how to talk to them. What they've been craving only happens when they tell the truth and are authentic in who they are. And that's what the whole movie is. Even when they're around Kelly LeBron, they're posturing for her. And she sees right through it. And that's what's so, and she cares about them and she's charming. She lifts them up. We still haven't talked about the scene in the parents, wait. Okay.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That actress.
James Whips?
Yeah. Because go ahead.
His mom, the actress that played his mom, she does one thing that is so fucking hilarious and amazing. Is when he asks, he's like, "Give me the phone," and she's like, she's flustered. She's like, "I mean, well, here it is." That shit kills me every time.
And then when he tries to put his big boy pants on, and he's like, "I don't care who you are," and he stands up, and when she hands him the phone, he's shaking like this, and he can barely hold the phone up to his ear. She's like, "I'll kick your ass."
What do you do, Al? I'm an independent businessman. What the fuck does that mean?
Ty, this is your time to talk about him jerking off in the shower. The only time his son can get any.
Oh yeah, well, I've already told the story of my friend saying that in front of my parents. You were talking about how the Kelly LeBrock character, the genie, is trying to get them to be who they actually are. Part of that is an extension of what happens in front of the gymnastics class. Is Robert Downey Jr. and his partner yank their pants down, and they think that's the worst thing that can happen, right? Being exposed to everybody. Kelly LeBrock through the whole movie is saying, whatever your worst fear is, just get it out there. Just get it out there. It's never. So she's saying to his parents the things that he's terrified his parents will learn about him, right?
It's funny you say that because even in the bar scene, it feels like all the brothers around there, they're trying to get them, like lift them up, like, hey, no. He even said the one dude even says when he's like, what's this boy talking about on the television? He goes, well, explain it to him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the point. That's the point I was making. Is like there is kindness to the heart of that scene because these guys are completely out of their element. They're completely posturing, trying to be something they're not, and they could be ripped to shreds. And they are ripped to, and they usually are ripped to shreds in their high school, and they're bullied and everything. And these guys are cool to them. And he's like, "Well, explain it to him. Well, explain it."
Not the girl with the big titty.
Kicked him in the nuts.
She did what? He felt for him. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like hell no. Like, you know what I mean? Like he jumped out of his seat. He couldn't believe it.
And you know what I love is they had that guy come back and be a bartender. So it's like they're friends now. It's like they made a connection. Now they're friends.
Yeah, just give me the bottle. How about you bend over and I shove this bottle right up your ass?
Yeah, because he's like, you ain't gonna talk to me that way. Yeah, you know what I mean? He stood up for who he's like, no. That's my friend. I love these kids, not you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, but talk about before we leave the blues bar is like just the randomness of Wyatt sitting when he shuts the stall door and he sits in that guy's lap.
Oh, God damn.
He said, "Well, God damn." And you see 4 feet at the stall and the guy has his pants down in the thing. And he goes,
you can only imagine what he saw.
You can only imagine. He went in, pulled his pants down, take a shit, and sat down in another.
Crazy.
He says, "Well, goddamn." So just the storytelling of it, right? It's just one beat and one scene, and look about how much information. He goes to take a shit. They tell you in the thing he has a nervous stomach. When he gets nervous, he has to take a shit. He goes to take a shit. He pulls his pants down. He sits down, and then it goes down, and there's 4 feet, both pants down. And instead of like, he's just defeated. He's just, God damn. He's not like launching out of the stool. He's not launching out of the stall. He's just like, fuck, man.
I like how he walked into that scene. When he walks into that scene, and Chet does it too, but it's just the like simplicity in like Hi, dudes.
You know, an interesting character, though, and I bet Anthony Michael Hall did this in the moment, but when he's walking out of the bar and he just starts handing people money.
Oh my God, I got 50 for you. Like, the shit he's saying is like classic. Like, but the shit he's saying, regardless of how he's saying it, whatever it is so, his timing is ridiculous. Like when he says, like, he's like, you hung up on it? He's like, I hung up on the bitch. It was a throwaway, but it was so, like, he just delivered it with such, like, it was amazing.
I think lesser writers would have had, those people would have, like, beat the shit out of him, or it would have been a mean scene. But the fact, like, it was surprising in how there was a kindness, and they kind of brought him in. So
they're pathetic guys who are super down on their luck, right? If anybody would understand that, it's people who love the blues. So I get why those people
they get it.
Wind up being very sympathetic to them and being friendly to them, because these kids are down on their luck, man. These kids are at the bottom, and those guys are like, yeah, that's what our music is about.
But that's what he says, though. If you think, like, in the beginning, he tries to tell them his blues, but he doesn't do it right. No. And then later he's like, let me tell you my story, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like lay it on us. Let me hear it. Shit.
Well, these are not guys who are going to be sympathetic to my parents or mean, but they are sympathetic to I liked a girl and she kicked me in the nuts.
Right.
Like they're sympathetic to that one. Yeah. Now they're in.
Worst pain there is. She broke my heart. Broke more than your. She broke more than your heart.
And then the car scene, like that's where you had me, Isaiah, when we were in your car and you started quoting Anthony Michael Hall in the backseat of the car, and I'm like, dude,
that's when the character gets ridiculous, because you're like, what the fuck? Like, why? First of all, why is he carrying it out now? But it's just so ridiculous, because my wife even said too, she's like, why is he talking like that? Like, I'm like, he's on one. He's just on a roll. Like, he can't stop. You know what I mean?
And he's hammered. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
They kept giving him drinks. He's hammered. Yeah.
He's playing footsie with himself. He's like clapping his feet at one point, you know?
But I think it's smart writing, because she has Wyatt drive when she gets in the car, and that's slowly her giving them agency over their own lives to start doing that. And it's really smart how, if you go back, like watching this last time, every scene, every moment, she's always kind of lifting them up, putting them in charge, like teaching them how to the point where she ramps up the pressure, to the point where she threatens her father to let him know that this is silly. Like, everything that you're all throughout the movie, he's talking about anxiety, how tense they are. Relax, you're going to have a heart attack when you're 23. You need to let go. So each moment, the things that they're most terrified, she ramps up the pressure in that category. She ramps up the pressure with Chet. She ramps up the pressure with this house he's so meticulously scared about. She destroys the house. And then at the end, she has to call in Mad Max villains.
Real Mad Max villains.
Real Mad Max villains for them to come in and have something to stand up for. And it's really smart and structured and nuanced. It's so much deeper than any 80s teenage comedy in this era.
Like, who was the dude from People Under the Stairs? Wasn't he in it too? Like, yeah, like crazy shit.
Well, and the main mutant in their house is Wes from Mad Max.
Exactly, with Vernon Wells.
Vernon Wells.
The Vernon Wells. Who was? I didn't see the guy from People Under the Stairs.
He's the bald dude.
Yeah, the weird looking guy.
Yes.
The one who's like, can we keep this between ourselves? I wouldn't want to lose my teaching job.
And then
it all got serious. Like, at that point, like, he was just like, it all got serious.
Now, let me ask you a question. What was the purpose of that? Of them kind of breaking character at the end? It's funny. It's for a funny effect. Is it to de-escalate some of the danger in the scene? Like, what do you think the purpose of that? It's an interesting choice, but is it a joke at the expense of the arc out of the movie? Or
it's not an action movie. It's not a horror movie. You don't need to keep that tension. You don't need. Yeah,
it's a comedy. You don't need to keep tension. But the kids have passed their test.
Yeah,
and I feel like it dilutes a little bit of their test when they're breaking character and then the kids are kind of seeing that they are breaking the character.
If they were actually wasteland mutants, I don't think the fact that Wyatt has a revolver ends the problem.
Right.
I think they have to be people playing the mutant for that to work. Because
but they can. So look, if the revolver is in it and they're playing the mutant, they can walk off, and the people in the party will still buy that this happened. But if they break character in the scene,
so you're arguing that there should be a less funny version of the movie?
No, I'm not. I'm not arguing.
I got a solution for you. I think the point, for me at least, the point is even regular people do stupid shit sometimes, because all of them at least we're like, you have a lovely house here.
By the way, that is my favorite line in that whole section. You've got a lovely home.
Yeah, I do.
It's like, I'm so sorry. Maybe we can do lunch.
Yeah. The dude with metal on half of his face. We can do lunch.
Right.
And his voice sounds like Megatron when he talks.
For a second. Yeah, and then he goes back because I think what it is shit. Even people can do stupid. Normal people can do stupid shit, and they're showing look, they apologize. Even Gary, when he's has the gun, he's like, yeah, I know, get out. It happens.
Well, and it's also, I don't think there are actual wasteland mutants wandering around the suburbs of Chicago looking for parties. That's part of Lisa's magic. Lisa turns them into that.
A school teacher became this guy.
Yeah, Lisa turns them into that. And then when the moment's over, the magic dissipates and they go back to being what they were before. And they're like, oh, well, I probably shouldn't have been fucking with this kid. I'm going to leave now.
Yeah, but they walk out to
That's it.
But then they walk out to a Mad Max castle. That's what made me laugh. They walk out and it's this massive doomsday looking castle place that they're just moseying on back to. But yet, so I wasn't making a comment one way or the other. What I thought, this movie is so specific and it's so tight. It's what is the purpose of them breaking character at the end? It's fucking hilarious. It's really funny. But I was just curious what Hughes' intention was in that specifically. And every now and then he will have a moment like that where I don't fully, like John Candy in Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, when he looks over and he's fully dressed as the devil. And he's laughing at him, with this thing, and you get it. You understand what it symbolizes, and it's funny because it's on the nose. But I always wonder what he was thinking to create that. I
think Hughes, when he was making comedies, he was always looking for what's the funniest cap on this scene.
Right.
What is the extra joke I can get out of this moment? I think he was always looking for that.
But he could get away with these surreal things, like when they're behind the shower curtain and they come up, and it's the ugly doppelgangers of the girls that they were hitting on. They're dressed the same. Where you can see notes being well, where did they come from? How are they dressed the same? And they're both blonde and brunette. What is this about? And they don't even address it. He just has it, and then they move on. So that is my comment on notes. When somebody who has this creative vision that really understands what they're doing, because if that was his first script, could you imagine the notes that he would have gotten? Because there's things that he does in Weird Science that's unique to him. It's like a Lewis Carroll fever dream. Yeah. That like when they go in the kitchen and it's a hospital. When they go back in the kitchen and people are wearing scrubs and it's dressed up like a hospital, and you're like, what is this about?
It was his third movie, I think, in 18 months or something, something crazy like that. Don't quote me on that one though, but go back. But he was just churning them out, and they were all bangers for the most part. This is the only one that got kind of mixed reviews a little bit.
This movie came out the same year as Breakfast Club.
Right. Yeah. And it was filmed at the same high school.
Shermer High School.
In the same fictional town,
Fictional high school, fictional town. And Ferris Bueller's Day Off was filmed at that fictional high school.
That's funny.
The real decommissioned high school and the fictional. So Sherman High, he did all. John Hughes was doing universe shit before universe shit was cool.
Right.
And
John Hughes, that's amazing, man. Shit.
Yeah, it's crazy. But he said that he wrote Weird Science in 2 days. That's crazy. Weird Science. I mean, again, I bet he went through the revision and everything like that. But I guess what I think is interesting, and Weird Science was a hit. I mean, it wasn't a hit as big as some of his other movies, but it made a shit ton of money.
Oh, it did make a lot. It made. I'm looking at it now. Sorry, I had to look it up. It made $38.9 million at the box office, and the budget was $7.5 million. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I will say that when they ended up finally getting girlfriends and they broke it to Lisa, and she gets emotional scene. That scene has more impact than in a fun 80s movie like that should have. I mean, it's a sweet scene, and it really moves you in that moment because of what she's did for them and how much she cares for them. She was sad, and she's sad because she knew it was time to go, because she did what she needed to accomplish to get them into a place where they accepted who they are enough to where somebody else would accept who they are. And then it was time for her to move on. And I love how they ended it where she was going to help other dweebs.
Yeah, she went right back to the same school, right back
to Sherman High.
Are we going to do the top 5 or no?
Oh,
yes. Yeah, we should.
We're doing the top 5? All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, in honor of the late, great Bill Paxton, we're having the best Bill Paxton performances.
I got a tiny dick. It's pathetic.
It's pathetic. I don't even score that much.
Oh boy!
It's Weird Science. Chet's number 1 for me.
Oh no! See, I'm a Hudson man. Hudson number 1 for me.
100%. I'm a tie. I'm a tie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys broke the tie. Yeah, you're right, Hudson.
Now, I mean, on the others, like I love him in Near Dark. He's fucking great in Near Dark. I love him in Frailty, and Frailty's out of character because he's not playing a comedic role. Frailty is it's a serious drama role, and I almost
feel like we need 2 lists because his comedic performance because he's a good fucking actor. He has a lot of good serious things,
and a good director. That's a well directed movie.
Yeah, Frailty's great. If Frailty would have been seen by more people, I think he would have had more of a career as a director.
Yeah,
going forward, because it's a very well directed movie, well acted, and it's a phenomenal movie.
I agree. Yep.
But True Lies, nothing makes me laugh harder than when he
doesn't have a big part. It's
doesn't have a big part,
but it's very memorable. Yeah,
it kills me. And that was his thing. I mean, even in the Terminator, when he's like he's 1 can shy of a 6-pack, like you remember him.
I will say one of my favorite movies of all time is Apollo 13.
Yeah. I was going to say that was going to be my next one is Apollo 13.
Yeah, see, your friend has good taste, Wes.
He does.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna pick Tombstone because I didn't think he was in it enough. He does have some memorable lines in it, but he's like, what do you say? Something. He's like, this town's suffering. He's like, I'm suffering from a hangover.
I didn't love his character that much. That was the one thing that I wasn't crazy about. That he was.
It was quick. He didn't get too many good ones. He
was the sweet younger brother. It was kind of straight. Like Kurt got all the good. Kurt and Doc Holliday, and they got all the good shit.
Yeah.
So I love Frailty. I love Near Dark. I have a great deal of affection for the movie Trespass.
I was going to say Trespass also.
You got Ice Cube in there. You got Ice-T in there. You got Tiny Lister in there. You got Bill Paxton in there. I
saw that on a whim, I remember, yeah.
It's not objectively a good movie, but subjectively, I fucking love that movie.
Can I make an argument for Near Dark? Because I think the movie Near Dark is better than Trespass. I think it's one of the great vampire movies, one of the underrated vampire movies.
Is objectively a better movie than Trespass. I was only saying that I like Trespass even though it's not a good movie.
But I think Bill Paxton is at height Bill Paxton in that movie.
Yeah.
He's so charismatic. He's so interesting. And he elevates the whole movie by being a part of it.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on Predator 2? Because I didn't like the movie at all. Like I just was like, I wasn't feeling it. Like him and Danny Glover, to me, I don't know if I wasn't feeling their chemistry. I just don't know. But it didn't. I remember seeing it and just thinking like, or like that. Like it felt like somebody was trying to give him the same character as Hudson, but like trying to make him play Hudson in a different role, and I was just
it did feel like that. They basically told him to be Hudson in a different movie.
Yeah, and it didn't hit the same. The fear wasn't the same.
I do like the voodoo posse. I gotta say, fucking voodoo magic man. The voodoo posse. That's the only part of that movie I like, is when the voodoo posse murders those people.
I would do Frailty, Joseph, over Trespass.
Yeah, I agree.
Shall we see how close the patrons were? I don't know. They had one in there that you guys are going to groan at, but they got Twisters or Twister.
Oh God,
your favorite movie.
Twister. So they killed it though. Weird Science, True Lies, Apollo 13, Aliens. Yeah.
Wow.
They get the same ratio.
3, about 3 at least.
They get 60% right.
Yeah. They know it's 60%.
As long as they got Hudson right, you can't go wrong with that.
Thank you guys for hanging out. Please like and subscribe. Thank you to our guest Isaiah for being gracious enough to come hang out with some dipshits.
Tell them where they can see Isaiah coming up. What's he got going on? Give him a shout out.
The same thing Wes has got going on.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, tell him what you got going.
November 14th, the episode, the premiere of Cross comes on Amazon on Prime Movies, I guess, or Prime Video. Sorry, November 14th is our premiere of season 1. So it stars Aldous Hodge, myself, and Ryan Eggle plays our the person we're chasing.
All right, thank you guys for hanging out. Please like and subscribe. Thank you to Isaiah for coming to spend some time with some our real life Wyatt and Garrett. Dude, we loved having you on. We're gonna you guys have to tell us the next movie we're gonna do with you. Oh, say goodbye, Ty. Sorry, say goodbye, Ty. giant